Now I think most of you as attendees are muted.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Winslow Lewis. I'm one of the interns that worked on this project, just doing a mic check myself. So, Gillian, if you could let me know if you could hear me okay.
You sound fantastic. Nice and
Perfect.
clear. Okay. Caressa, do you want to go ahead and do a mic check?
Hello, can you hear me?
Nice and clear, yes.
Okay.
All right, and I'm just going to do an audience check. If anybody, we're going to go to housekeeping slide in just a minute. If anyone would like to help us out and type into the chat box that you can hear the audio just fine, that would be helpful. Thank you, Tia. Oh, we got a couple people. Excellent. Okay. All right, we'll give it one more minute and get started. All right, thanks for my type chat box assistance. So good morning, everybody. This is Gillian Middlestead with the Tribal Healthy Homes Network. You are on the webinar and the tutorial today where the Tribal Healthy Homes is launching the new Tribal Indoor Air Funding Directory. It's a fantastic resource. I'm really excited to be where we're at today. We have a lot to share with you, and ideally it's going to go smooth and we'll have no technology issues. But I'm going to ask you in advance to bear with us if we do have hiccups. This is a new software platform. We're showing some video. We're interacting with the website itself. And I will tell you up front that in just a few minutes when Winslow is speaking, he will also then be sharing the actual website so you can navigate and work on the site with him while he is walking it through with you. Just a few quick housekeeping. As most of you have already seen, if you have questions, there's a chat box in the lower right-hand side of the screen. You can also, there's a small hand icon, which you can use to raise your hand. The last 15 minutes of the webinar, we'll answer questions. We'll also open microphones if you'd like to ask a question directly. And most importantly, you can watch this again or share it with your colleagues. We're recording right now, and the link will be sent out to you within a few days. So what we're going to cover today, actually, and I should note that I think we're going to wrap by 11:15. I had put a 90-minute on this, not knowing how much time it would take to do a walkthrough, but I think you'll have some extra time at the end. So we're going to start out. I'm going to give a brief background about the Tribal Healthy Homes Network and this project. Then we're going to go to Caressa Nguyen, who is one of our interns who did a scan and worked with, there was probably several of you on the call today who participated where we did a survey to obtain input. So Caressa is going to provide essentially a background of how did we listen and how did we gain input from tribes to develop this. So to the meat of the webinar then will be Winslow Lewis, who was also our intern and the lead for the directory itself. We then have a gracious tribal partner who is going to do an example scenario that was filmed and is on video, and Winslow will also walk you through some sample searches. I'm going to end with a few minutes of just some suggestions about successful grant applications, because as you all know, and part of the reason you're here is that there's not necessarily an abundance of indoor air specific funding opportunities. So being creative and resourceful and collaborative is sort of a prerequisite to getting a decent amount of money and doing the work that you all want to do. And then we're going to end with an interactive Q&A. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and first, I just want to say we have a couple people we need to thank. Winslow Lewis was our intern and our project lead, and he's been working on this, I believe, since July, and has done an outstanding job. We also have MLD Design, who was our in-kind software designer, programmer, graphic artist, and all-around technical guru, without which this program literally would not be possible. Caressa Nguyen, who was also an intern through ITEP's Tribal Environmental Internship Program. John Abulafenis, who's a star at Nez Perce Tribe, who we've worked with for many years, agreed to do a sample scenario, and we appreciate that. And then many of you were beta testers or on our tribal review panel, or Caressa interviewed you. So thank you again. I think that our final product reflects that we had a very collaborative process. So I'm going to take just about 3 minutes for those of you that might not, I'm not going to do a survey, but I'm going to guess based on the attendees that we have tribal environmental and IGAP folks from Alaska and the lower 48. But I think we also have some agency folks and a number of tribal housing authority, housing department folks. So for those of you who are not familiar with Tribal Healthy Homes, I just have a couple slides to share before we jump into the webinar. We were established in 2009. We have ongoing support of the Tulalip tribes, who is our pass-through and our backbone organization, and where we do a lot of our work. And then EPA Region 10, who we appreciate through a Clean Air Act 103 grant that supports a lot of our work. We do get smaller grants from other organizations, but Tulalip and EPA help keep us going year to year. We use many collaborations and partnerships with tribes, agencies, researchers, nonprofits, and we also collaborate across sectors and regions. Our aim is to promote just, healthy, and safe living environments for American Indian Alaska Native communities. So to wrap up, I'm just going to briefly say that there's about 5 or 6 things that I'd like you to know if you don't know about our work. I see based on the names registered, I know we have worked with a lot of you. But as an example, one of our hallmark programs and services has been to connect tribes with indoor air funding opportunities. We had an analog, a good old hard copy of a funding directory that started in 2016. Today's launch is our first interactive searchable database. We also provide culturally tailored and evidence-based educational resources. Our resident healthy homes checklists, our resident calendars, posters. There's a whole variety of resources. Essentially, we take sort of the indoor air healthy homes resources, then we work with tribes to adapt it so that it has a tribal specific message. If you're in EPA Region 10, we do on-site indoor air training through our Circuit Rider program. We also then will do Circuit Rider training outside Region 10, but the tribe needs to fund all of our costs because our explicit service delivery is in Region 10. One of our hallmark programs is the Air Matters Toolkit. If you have any questions about it, please follow up with us. Tribes have distributed over 1,600 toolkits since the program started. And they are an indoor air kit that helps inform, engage, and empower residents. We do provide phone-based technical assistance, everything from, we talk about strategic plans and developing an indoor air program, all the way down to answering questions about mold or green cleaning or the use of bleach. So please feel free to use us in that respect as well. And then finally, I'll just point you to our website, thhnw.org. And then you can either do /resources or you can search it. But we probably have over 100 different indoor air outreach, education materials, social media resources on all indoor air topics. And there's an annotation next to those that are tribal specific. So we encourage you to use any of our resources. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it now over to Caressa to take us back for a minute before we get into the meat of the webinar. Caressa is going to show us the journey we went on to listen to you about what you wanted in a funding directory. And Caressa, go ahead and take it from here.
I'll be talking about how we obtain tribal input to shape the content and format of the directory. My role in this was as a Tribal Healthy Homes Network intern. I was lead on the survey and interview project. I assisted Winslow and the Tribal Healthy Homes Network with the overall design, content, and research. This initiative was made possible by the Tribal Healthy Homes Network, Tulalip tribes, ITEP interns, and significant in-kind support. So this slide shows how we obtain tribal and stakeholder input throughout the process. Specifically, these are the steps that I took. At first, I conducted a national tribal survey, which 44 tribes participated in. Then I conducted phone interviews with 4 tribes. Then after the directory was further developed, we conducted beta testing with key tribal and agency stakeholders. Then finally convened a tribal review panel, which 8 tribes participated in for additional feedback and a second survey. This ensured that that the directory was user-friendly for tribes. So about the tribal survey, 44 responses were received, ranging from Alaska to Maine. The departments that responded were from environmental departments primarily, with 6 working explicitly on indoor air quality. And the collaboration that existed was largely with housing departments, and over half of the participants who responded were in positions which they're not official grant writers, but sometimes identify and write grant applications as part of their jobs. And 95% of the respondents' positions are grant funded. So this slide is an example of the survey questions. What we wanted to know was how you would conduct a search, and these were your top results. The first one, the top result being searching by IAQ issue, so radon, lead, mold. And we used your responses to design our search function. We also used the survey to find out which sources tribes use to obtain IAQ grant information. And as you can see, there is a wide variety of sources that tribes reported using. This helped us realize that the funding directory could be valuable by providing a centralized one-stop shop for all current IAQ funding. And we asked if anyone applied for IAQ grant funding with an internal program or department in your tribal organization. And the key takeaway is that from our sample of 44 tribes, it doesn't appear that many tribal departments are collaborating to apply for grants. So housing departments and air quality programs or health clinics. And the reason for raising this issue is that through collaborations, there may be access to non-traditional or unexplored pots of funding. In other words, moving outside the traditional channels that we all rely upon may open up new opportunities to address indoor air quality. And the next question, similar to the last, asked if you had applied for IAQ funding as a partner with an organization outside of your tribe. And the key takeaway is that from our sample, it doesn't appear that many tribes were partnering with outside organizations to obtain IAQ grants. And the reason for raising this is that doing so may open more funding opportunities. So this would be through local weatherization programs or through local social service programs such as LIHEAP, or through a partnership with an academic or research institution. These could open more funding opportunities. So we'd like to say thank you to the tribes who participated in our surveys and interviews and beta testing. We hope that this is a useful tool. And these are the tribes who participated. And I'd especially like to thank the native village of Koyuk, the Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians, and the Bear River Band of Ronerville Rancheria and the Standing Rock Sioux, who offered additional feedback and contributed a lot. So thank you.
Thank you, Caressa. Winslow, let's jump right in.
All right, great. Thank you, Caressa and Gillian, and thank you all for joining us today. As you can probably tell, we're really excited about getting this site out there, and we put a lot of work into. So we're excited to have you all be able to use it now, and hopefully after today's presentation, we're all feeling really comfortable in using the site and can generate some meaningful results through it. So first, I just want to say that I did just trigger a pop-up at the top of your webinar screen. It's a green banner that says visit the site with a red button. And I'll be doing a tutorial and live demonstration of the live site. And we'd love for you to button, and that'll take you right to the site homepage, so you can follow along as you go, and definitely let us know if that's not working. We can figure out a different way to get you there. The website URL, we should say, is tribalindoorairfunding.org, and we'll be sure to bring that up throughout the presentation as we go. So I want to start by kind of introducing you to the filtering categories that we structured this site around. And as Caressa mentioned, we got these categories based on the surveys that Caressa led with tribal members. We really wanted to structure around what people are looking for when they're trying to identify funding sources that work for the projects they want to run. So we structured the site around these 4 categories. It's by contaminant, some examples being mold, radon, asbestos. By program eligibility, so which applicants are actually eligible for the programs that are included within this directory. By region, so depending where you are in the US, some programs might be available. Some programs are available to specific regions, and so we wanted users to be able to filter by that. And finally, by activity type, so what allowable activities are available for a given opportunity. So one thing to kind of note here is that as we kind of travel to the live site, you'll see that the regional filter doesn't include every county within the US or even every state. It only includes specific regions in which we found a program. So as you're using it, you may see that wherever you are located isn't included within the regional category. That doesn't mean that you can't use the directory, and it simply means we haven't found a program that's specific to your area. But if you know of one, please let us know, and we'll get into that as we go along as well. So now that we've kind of stepped through our filtering categories, I want to go over the main 4 ways to navigate the site. So this is really, where a lot of the value of this directory comes from, is the ability to take a large list of opportunities and whittle it down to the programs that meet your specific needs. And so we've designed our search models to help that. So the first one I want to talk about is a guided question model. Start here, guided question model. And when you navigate to the website, you should see this model right on the homepage. So the way you start with this is by clicking that yellow gold Start Here button right in the center of your screen. I have it boxed here in the screenshot. And this will pop up a series of questions, of 4 questions, kind of referencing the 4 filtering categories that we've inputted into the system. And this tool is meant for new users, for people that are looking for a little more context around the questions that we're asking, and the kind of rationale for applying some of the filters that we have available. And we think it's a really good model for those that are kind of still getting used to the site. So with that, I will now be sharing my screen so we can see it in the live browser. And again, hopefully you're following along and using the lab's website as we do this, because then we can match. So hopefully you see that okay. I'm just going to navigate here. Great. So let me know if you can't see my screen. I just want to show off that one search model. So that, again, that was the guided question model. I'm on the home page. This is what it looks like. And when you click that yellow Start Here button, you'll see that the pop-up kind of gets triggered. And here we're asked, what specific contaminants are we concerned about? There's some explanation of that question. Then the user can use this bar right here and then select any of the many filtering terms that we've programmed into the system, and it'll the system will then give us results that reflect our filters. So say we want to look for opportunities focused on mold and moisture remediation. All I would have to do is click that. And maybe we also want to look at ventilation as a related issue. It's really easy for us to add and remove filters on this tool right here. You see these black X's next to the terms. If I was to click one of those, it takes the filter off. So I'll go ahead and select those filters just as an example. As far as region goes, the way regional filters are programmed within this system is a little tricky. So we've set it up so that whatever region you select will show you all the opportunities specific to that area, and then any other opportunities that might be available to you. Mostly that's referring to national programs. So right now I'm in Massachusetts, so I'll say that I am in Massachusetts. And that's going to give me results that are specific to Massachusetts and any other national programs that might apply to me. So that just hopefully gives a sense of how those regional filters work, but they are a little tricky. So something to get used to. I would say one thing I want to highlight here too is that you actually don't need to use every filter field. So if you say I don't really have a preference on what activities I'm kind of targeting with whatever project I'm pursuing, I can just leave it blank by clicking that right arrow at the end there. And as far as applicants go, I am a individual renter homeowner. So that's what I would select. And there's a chance that my combination of filters won't get any results. If that happens, I just adjust my search. So one thing I'm going to do here too, because I know we have a bunch of programs that are specific to wood smoke, is I'm going to make sure wood smoke is my search term here. So I'll submit that now that I've filled out all my filters. And it's loading the page. It looks like there's 5 funding programs that match my search criteria. So hopefully that helps with navigating that tool. And now we will pop back into the presentation and start going through the others. And definitely be thinking of questions that you might have as we go along here, and we'd be happy to answer those at the end. So if there's something I missed, hopefully it'll get addressed throughout the rest of the presentation, and if not, we can answer it at the end there. So let me just pull up the presentation. Great. So the next search model I want to highlight is the quick search directory. And this is very similar to the guided question model in that it's a series of drop-down menus where you'll select your filters from. What this is kind of for users that are maybe more well-versed in using the site, want a speedier process of getting right to the results. So I'll just show you where that is within the live site, just so you have that in mind. And if you're following along, you should see it on the home page, so the landing page, as well as any results page that is generated as you're using the site. So as we can see, I'm on the results page for my last search here. And you can actually see this quick search directory. This tool is it's present at the top of the page. So I could just use this right here. It's already using the search terms in my last search. Those are already programmed in, so I could adjust them. I could deselect wood smoke by clicking it again, add new contaminants, and then generate a search pretty quickly. So that's a useful tool for quick adjustments. And then if I go back to the home page, clears my results, you can see that the quick search directory is just a little further down on that page. You'll see that yellow tab in the bottom left corner. And these are the series of drop downs that we're talking about, which you can select and search by using this gold search button in the bottom right corner. So that's maybe the most simple search model. Definitely good for users that are revving to find results quickly and not looking for the extra guidance that the guided question model offers. So let me just jump back to the presentation and we'll touch on the next one. We built a lot of different search systems, as you're probably seeing. And that's because we recognize that a lot of different people are going to be using this site, and we want it to be accessible as possible for anybody. So maybe one search model works better for some people than others, and that's the kind of beauty of having multiple modes of navigating the site. The last few things I want to touch on is there are a few other ways to add or remove filters from your searches. You'll see that there are all the filters that are input into the system are listed on in these sidebar categories on the left of your screen, both on the main page and then within any results page as well. Similar concept to other models. You select and add filters. That changes your results. This is kind of nice for on-the-go changes. So after maybe you've done a full search for what you're looking for, you can adjust what your results are by just quickly adding or deselecting filters on the left sidebar. There's also a clear button, which kind of clears out all the filters that you might have for a specific category. So just so we're on the same page, I will navigate back to the site now, so you can see that in person. Here we go. So great. So now we're back on the home page. You see these sidebar filters on the left here. This is the contaminants category. If we scroll down, we see it's there for regions, activity type. The way we select those is just by clicking them. So say I'm interested in VOCs, programs that are specific to volatile organic compounds as a contaminant. I'd select that, and it would generate a new page with 22 funding programs that match that criteria. If I didn't want that as part of my search anymore, all I'd have to do is clear the results, actually. So it's going to be this red button. Oh, now I've tricked it up. So there's going to be that red clear button at the top of the category. That'll take away VOCs as a filter. You'll be back to all the programs within our directory. So the last site navigation thing I want to highlight, as I stop sharing screen right there, The last site navigation tool I want to highlight is the agency directory. So maybe you know of a specific program hosted by an organization or agency, and you just want to see that. Or maybe you want to see all the programs that are offered by an organization. We do have a page set up for that for people that already have a specific program or organization in mind. And you can find that at the top menu bar that's present on every page within the website. And as I share my screen, just to show you what that looks like, we can navigate there. So back here, we'll see this agencies menu item in the top right, right next to funding tips in the about section. Once I click that, it'll pull up the agency directory, which is split up into national organizations, regional organizations. So say I am looking to see all the opportunities offered by the US Department of Agriculture. So what I would do is select that, and that will bring me to the USDA's page within our directory. So we see every opportunity that's within our directory is now listed down here. That's specific to USDA. So if it's hosted by the USDA, can be used for indoor air, it's within our system. And we also have a link to their website and a short description of what the agency or organization is about. So that's a helpful way to kind of navigate to a specific organization's offerings within this field. Great, so those are really the 4 navigation modes that we hope to show off here. And now I will cover quickly kind of the results, what the programs look like within this directory. We wanted to kind of strike a balance between high-level necessary information that you can quickly look at, figure out if it's right for you on the go, and then the kind of full extent of information one would need before deciding whether or not to pursue a specific funding opportunity. So what we did that is we have this high-level record, which shows us the name of the program, the host organization, and a brief description. So really short kind of information on the program. And the let me just make sure that we're all looking at the presentation. Do please let me know if I stray from it too far. Great. So yeah, this is the high level view. And one thing I want to point out here is these icons. So these denote kind of popular indoor air quality topics that we heard brought up within a lot of conversations with our tribal partners within the review process and survey process. So these are things like wood stove replacement, mold and moisture remediation, lead remediation, and radon. And what these icons allow us to do is we can gauge whether a program addresses one of these project focuses quickly without even really clicking into the program. So if I want to work on replacing wood stoves, I can see that the 533 Housing Preservation Grant does that by just simply seeing the icon present within the high-level description. And you can always hover over these icons to reveal their definition if it's tricky to figure out what they are sometimes. So hopefully that helps people kind of like process this stuff on the go. And when we expand the profile by clicking on it, we'll see a lot more information about a specific program. And that includes kind of more descriptors of what you can do with a grant or a funding opportunity, what region a program applies to, contact information. The 3 I want to focus on are, in my opinion, really cool features of this site. And that one in the top right is our Available Now banner. And that's programmed to show users which opportunities are currently accepting applications or proposals within a given time. So that's really helpful for knowing what is actually available right now. What can I apply to and not have to wait for. In the bottom left, I want to point out a timestamp. And, we recognize that a lot of the value of a site like this comes from having up-to-date information and from, keeping this a really credible source by keeping it up to date. And so partially to hold us accountable, we've implemented these timestamps for every single program within the directory. And that just shows the user, when the last time the information on this specific opportunity was updated. One thing that we kind of want to emphasize in building this directory and sharing it with everybody is that it is a living, breathing resource. It will be undergoing changes as new programs come available, as kind of we hear from all of you and all the tribal members and tribes that will be using this site on functions that you're looking for. And we're hoping that it kind of continues to grow over time into being a really valuable resource, an even more valuable resource, I should say, than it is right now. So that's one way to hold us accountable and for you to understand, how up to date the information that you're looking at is. Last thing I want to point out here is the sharing options in the bottom right corner. So this is really great for sharing programs with a colleague. If there's an opportunity that looks to meet what you're hoping to do with your project, you can quickly share that on social media through these Facebook, Twitter, even LinkedIn buttons that we programmed into the directory, as well as kind of a copy link and email button. And just to show how that works, I'll go back to the live site. And each program within this directory has its own page set up for easy sharing. So to give you an example, we're still looking at that USDA agency page now that we're on the live site. And we see these share options in the bottom right corner. There's Facebook, Twitter, etc. What I'm going to do is click that last button, which is kind of like a chain link. And that says copy link to clipboard. So when I click that, the URL for the specific program's page is now copied onto my computer. So I could go ahead and email that to a colleague. I could message it to somebody. I could also just enter it into my URL at the top of the page. I'll paste it in there. And when we navigate to that site, we see the 533 Housing Preservation Grant Program that gets pulled up immediately. So it's really helpful for sharing programs amongst colleagues and targeting opportunities and finding the ones that are right for you. So that's I think most of this tutorial and walkthrough. And I know there's a lot of information, so we'll definitely take some time through the Q&A to explore the site more if needed. Just to give you a kind of more real life example of what using this site looks like, we are now going to show off a video from one of our tribal partners, John at the Nez Perce tribe, who has so graciously allowed us to show you what a real life example of using this site looks like. So I think, Gillian, if you could pull that up as we transition here, that would be great. Sorry about that, folks. It looks like we're running into some audio issues, but hopefully that gets addressed soon. I still learning how to navigate this webinar software. So let's see.
Tribal indoor air fund.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's coming through just yet.
Searching is the topic of wood smoke. I've worked for the NES.
If we can't get it to go within this webinar, we'll be sure to send it out. To folks. There it is. Looks like it's working.
That topic in a number of ways. But
so we're going to just go back for a moment so we can hear all of Jonna.
Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Tribal Indoor Air Funding Directory. And I'm going to research, what I'm interested in researching is the topic of wood smoke. I've worked for the Nez Perce tribe since 2005. I was actually an ITEP intern in 2004. And wood smoke has always been an issue in the community that we've been addressing that topic in a number of ways. But there's still always new things out there that I'm curious about, and I'm going to show you a little about that today. So now I'm going to show you a search on the funding tool, and like I said, the topic I'm interested in is wood smoke. So I'm going to type in wood smoke. Here we go, and I'm going to go to the next. So that's the contaminant I'm concerned about, and I'm going to choose national, and I'm going to choose Idaho because I want to know about the national programs, but I want to know what we have here locally too. And my next option is, what would I like to do? I'm kind of open. I kind of want to see what all is out there, so I'm going to leave that open. And the next one asks about what type of applicant you are. And the same thing, I like to kind of know of all the programs, so I'm just going to leave it at that as my search. So it shows that there are 21 funding programs that match my criteria. Again, I was looking at wood smoke, funding available for national opportunities, and then Idaho-specific opportunities. Over here on the left, if I change my mind and want to switch to a different contaminant, I could. But for now, I think I'll just stick with wood smoke. Some of these programs I've heard about before, like the Clean Air Act EPA grant, both 103 and 105. We work a lot with our health agency, and so I'm kind of curious about some housing opportunities, so this could be one. I think what's cool about this tool is, although we work well with our health agency and our housing department, that sometimes I don't know the names of programs that they have available to them. So I think it's cool with this tool is that I can come to the table with saying, hey, what about the Healthy Homes Production Grant? And start a conversation there. One that I'm interested in is, and I'm just kind of scrolling and showing you different ones, is the LIHEAP program. And I've heard LIHEAP discussed in terms of here at the Nez Perce tribe, energy assistance, and that's housed by social services. And I've heard other tribes talk about it, but I was curious of what it was shared on the funding directory. And I didn't know, even though the Makah Nation and the Makah tribe is in the Region 10 where Idaho is located in the Nez Perce Reservation, that they use money from LIHEAP to do wood stove replacements. So that was new to me, even though I've been in this field a long time. So this could be an opportunity here, possibly. This gives me an open door to maybe talk to our social services about that. So I'm going to close that. The other program that I have shared with people before, which you may not know about, is the U.S. Department of Agricultural 504 program. And this is for low-income homeowners and elderly that are very low income. So they can either get grants or a loan. And we've heard from the USDA person in our region that this money isn't always sought out after here. And so we've been trying to let people know more that this exists. A lot of times the Nez Perce Tribes housing can fill that gap. But regardless, we want people to know this exists. And if you look at the program highlights here, in 2014, an elder on the Warm Springs Reservation in Region 10 was able to use this money to do some remediations in her house. So those are some quick tools. There are also some Idaho-specific programs. Not all these maybe apply to tribal members, but we also serve non-tribal people on the reservation, so it's good for us to know. Again, I'm just going to scroll quickly up. You can look over here on the left-hand side about if you want to be specific about who you are and what type of activity you're interested in. Again, I kept it specific, but if you wanted to click on some others, you can see how many funding opportunities quickly here with a little number next to it. So thanks for watching me do my little wood smoke search, and I hope you enjoyed the tool.
Okay, before we go to inside the mind of a master procrastinator, we're going to close that and come back to our slides. Hopefully you all can hear me all right. All right, we're going to wrap up. We're just about to go to questions. What I wanted to do very briefly, actually, Winslow, do you want to go ahead and talk about this feature really quickly before I wrap up?
Yeah, I'll just kind of quick info on what this slide is showing. We do have a contact form available through our website. It's in the top right of the website. It's always there on that top menu bar. And this forum allows you to get in touch with us. It's a kind of general comments and questions. And then within this forum, there's also a link to a website for sharing programs with us. So if you're a grantor, if you work for an organization that's hosting some of these programs, that's a great way to let us know about a new opportunity that we can input directly into our site.
Okay. Before we go to questions, on the website itself, there is a tab. I'm not going to navigate to it, but it just says funding. What does it say, Winslow? Funding tips. Essentially, it's a 8 to 10 more or less common sense recommendations, because if you are like myself, we don't have we do now, but it's Tulalip, but usually you're doing the grant writing yourself in addition to all of your other duties. It makes it challenging. And so if you're going to put 20, 30 hours into writing a grant, you want to do it well, you want to be competitive. So I've compiled sort of a set of best practices for developing a competitive proposal. A couple things I want to say on the slide that you see here, which says tips for preparing a competitive proposal. As you all may or may not have discovered, depending on where you are in your indoor air and healthy homes work, the path to program funding is rarely straight. Sometimes it's multiple applications. It's continuing to do searches over a couple years, writing different proposals and finding different partners. There isn't really a one-shot deal, and it's not easy, but our work is very, very important. So you just keep iterating and generating new proposals and finding new partners. I hope at some point in the future our institutions and grant streams change, but for now, the reality is that we have to be persistent and creative. You have to wear many hats when you're writing a proposal. You're the coordinator of a project, right? You've identified the need, the potential intervention or the program, and who the partners might be. But you probably are also writing the grant. You might be a technician. You might be planning the work plan. So we recognize that, again, the more you can bring in other partners to help spread and disperse these many responsibilities across the project, the better, so that it isn't all on you. I know that there's probably less than 5% of you on this webinar today who are dedicated indoor air folks, right? So I know you have many other responsibilities. Couple other things is that blending and braiding funds from different sources is generally the most common way to get work done. I shared this example on the right. This is probably 2 years ago at the Tulalip tribes. And we wanted to put ductless mini split heat pumps into elders' homes, in particular elders who relied on wood heat and may or may not have had a COPD or a lung condition. But in order to do that, I think we actually achieved 20 homes, but we blended Clean Air Act 105 funding. Bonneville Power Administration in the Pacific Northwest has energy efficiency and weatherization money. We used in-kind labor for installation from the Tulalip Housing Department, and we used actually a cash match that was approved by the Tribal Board of Directors to double the number of homes. And there's starts and fits, and the project took over 2 years. However, and Eileen Gagney, who's on the call today, was in the field quite a bit, but we eventually had a champion who was able to get things done. As you can see, I don't know what she's holding up, but she's an incredibly happy individual to have received her heat pump. And for those of you who don't know, it can substantially reduce your heat costs by up to 50–60%. So it's both energy efficient, it's cleaner, and saves money for your resident. Working across departments, finally, I'll just wrap up by saying, as Jonna described so well, they have extensive experience collaborating with their housing and with their health clinic, and I see that more and more. But what Jonna pointed out in her great video was that actually knowing what funding streams they have can help you go have a conversation with the other departments. And then working across sectors, indoor air and healthy homes it's a field, but it's really an amalgamation of housing, energy, healthcare, social services. And so working with all of those different fields, you may find, for example, we were, this wasn't specific to housing, but at our early childhood education center, it turned out that they had quite a bit of money for parent education, and we were invited to come in, and they could fund us developing a short curriculum and doing a parent education night for any children with asthma and green cleaning. So you just being creative across sectors may help increase your opportunities for funding. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up and switch to Q&A. There was somebody with a raised hand earlier, but while I put this here I'm going to go ahead and say you can do it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. But I also want to point out that this email, info@tribalindoorfunding.org, it isn't one of those emails where it goes into the Ethernet and you never know if there's a recipient. That will go directly to my inbox and I'll get it within a few seconds of you sending something. So if you have questions, suggestions, or if you have grant information as an agency, you can use that email. You can also, of course, go to the contact form that Winslow showed earlier, where you can put, Jonna pointed out the macaw example. If you have a highlight, we would love, that's part of what this site is about, is networking and sharing the successes and the innovations that tribes have done. And that's literally that's the most important part of our organization, is to connect you with one another. So we encourage you to use that contact feature on the website. So I'm going to stop now. Thanks for being here. We're going to send you a link with a recording, and then I'm going to go ahead and open it up if anybody would like to input a question or raise their hand, and I can unmute you.
Quickly, Gillian, I just wanted to have a quick clarification. I think the email on this slide is slightly off, and I don't want people to get directed to the wrong mailbox. So it's going to be tribalindoorfunding.org.
What did tribal indoor funding? Yeah,
it's very close. It's a long URL,
yep.
So it's easy to get tripped up on. But I just sent that email address in the chat box as well. Sure.
That's my sleep deficit last night is showing. All right. I know it's kind of technical, but does anybody have any comments and or any examples you want to share, things that you've done with your tribe or organization? We're open to hearing about anything, or like what you're having for lunch. Let's see here. Right, there's a hand raised and it has gone away. Jonna's got a question. Oh my gosh, I know. Could you still produce that and we'll share it live, please? Yeah, Jonna was gracious enough. We had several tribal partners. We were hoping to do the video, and it was just turned out to be a little bit more time consuming, and she was able to make it happen. It would have gone viral too, frankly. All right, anybody else? I'm looking, otherwise we can wrap up, but it's pretty quiet out there. So I'm guessing that you all are either digesting it or don't have any questions at the moment for us. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'll leave the browser open for a minute. I'll go ahead and wrap the webinar. We're going to stay on for a few more minutes if anybody wants to stay on to ask any questions. And again, you will all receive a copy of the recording probably within about 2 business days. It takes time for it to compress and then upload as a file. So thank you again for joining us today, and to Winslow, Caressa, to MLD Design, to Jonna, and to everybody who participated as a tester or an interviewer. And have a good rest of your day. Thanks, Annette. All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar for today. Thank you again.